Welcome to the FAA's informal airspace meeting on the proposed establishment of Class C airspace surrounding Wilmington International Airport. We are glad you could join us for this virtual event. I'm Patrick Young, the FAA's moderator for today's meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to gather additional information to be considered in developing the proposal. These meetings provide interested parties with the opportunity to present views, recommendations, and comments on the proposal. Please note the proposed establishment of Class C airspace would not affect the number of aircraft in the area and would not change the flight paths or altitudes at which aircraft operate. Instead, these modifications are designed to better manage and communicate with aircraft operating within Wilmington airspace. As a result, the proposed establishment will increase safety and reduce the risk of conflicts between aircraft for every pilot during all operations. Here's our agenda. The meeting will start with the FAA's detailed presentation of the proposed Wilmington airspace design, followed by presentations and comments from the attendees who registered in advance to speak. Afterwards, our panel of experts will hold a question and answer session. Attendees on Zoom or YouTube can submit written questions while the workshop is streaming live. At the completion of the question and answer session, we will adjourn after a brief closing remark. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, your microphones are muted and cameras are off. To submit a question during the question and answer session, please enter your written question in the question and answer tab on the Zoom platform. If you are attending this meeting via YouTube, you can submit your questions directly in the comment section. If you're having technical issues connecting to the virtual meeting, you can text our technical support team at 949-478-0253. This phone number is for text messages only. The FAA is soliciting comments on this proposal, and we encourage you to submit any comments you may have. Please note, submitting a question during the question and answer session is not the same as providing a formal written comment. You can submit a formal comment by mailing it to the FAA at 1701 Columbia Avenue, College Park, Georgia 30337. Or by emailing it to the email address shown on screen. Please provide your comments by October 31st, 2025. You can also visit our website at www.faa.gov/go/Wilmington for more information about the project. Now you will hear an overview of the Wilmington airspace and the applicable information regarding the proposed design from the air traffic controllers at Wilmington International Air Traffic Control Tower.
Hi, I'm Clay Smith, Air Traffic Manager at the Wilmington Air Traffic Control Tower. In the next few slides, I'll provide a basic overview of the Wilmington International Airport and surrounding airspace operations. Wilmington International Airport, or ILM, is a public airport located in Wilmington, North Carolina. In 2024, ILM was ranked the 5th largest airport in North Carolina in total operations. The airspace at ILM is Class D with an overlying TIRSA and serves commercial air carriers, general aviation aircraft, and military operations. The airport is also closely associated with flight training, with 6 flight schools nearby. ILM provides both commercial and general aviation services with 31 nonstop destinations and access to over 500 destinations with 1 layover. Several airlines operate at ILM, including American Airlines, Avelo, Breeze Airways, Delta, JetBlue, Sun Country Airlines, and United. This chart shows the enplanement numbers for ILM over the past few years to current 2025 numbers. The enplanement count is used as a qualifier for establishing a Class C airspace, with a minimum number of 250,000 enplanements required for Class C consideration. ILM has surpassed 250,000 enplanements each year since 2022, reaching 736,868 enplanements in 2024. In a recent news article, ILM was recognized as the fastest growing airport in seat capacity in the United States, serving over 1.4 million passengers. This graphic shows Wilmington seat capacity growth from 2022 to 2025 and projected increases for 2026. In the 1920s, the airport began as a grassy strip between Floral Parkway and Audubon Boulevard, which attracted early aviation enthusiasts. In 1928, Blumenthal Field was named in honor of World War I pilot Arthur Blumenthal. During World War II, the airport became a training ground and anti-submarine patrol base for the U.S. Army Air Forces, and it was expanded to include modern runways and facilities. In 1950, a large modern terminal building and control tower replaced the existing wooden structures. By 1968, runway renovations were approved to accommodate Boeing 737 jets. In 1980, a concept study for a new terminal complex was authorized by the County and Airport Commission. In 1988, the airport was renamed New Hanover County International Airport to reflect new international standards. In 1990, the new 88,000 square foot terminal was dedicated. In 1997, the airport was renamed Wilmington International Airport, ILM. In 2022, the expanded modern terminal opened. In 2024, a $130 million airport roadway, curb front, parking, rental car, and terminal entrance modernization project began.
Hi, I'm Alex Roth, Air Traffic Controller at ILM. Runway selection is based on prevailing wind direction, traffic flow, and operational requirements. The runways at Wilmington International were built to align with the prevailing wind direction in the area. To safely operate, aircraft typically take off and land into the wind. The numbers on the runway indicate the compass headings the aircraft is facing as it lands or takes off. For example, runway 6 and runway 24 are 60 degrees in one direction and 240 degrees in the other. Wilmington International is equipped with two crossing runways, runway 624 and runway 1735. Runway 624 is the primary runway and is 8,016 feet long and 150 feet wide. Runway 1735 is 7,754 feet long and 150 feet wide. There are three public-use general aviation airports near ILM that offer flight training. Military airfields include Camp Davis Marine Corps Outlying Field and New River Marine Corps Air Station. Hospital heliports in the vicinity of ILM include Novant Health Regional Medical Center Heliport and Brunswick Novant Medical Heliport. The airspace surrounding Wilmington International includes frequent flight operations by non-participating VFR aircraft, those flying under visual flight rules, and not in communication with air traffic control. A non-participating VFR aircraft is an aircraft operating without air traffic control or ATC services. VFR aircraft rely on visual navigation and are only required to contact ATC when operating in controlled airspace, such as Class Charlie airspace. The FAA directs traffic through three-dimensional airspace, which is divided into airspace classes. The four primary categories of airspace are controlled, uncontrolled, special use, and other. Controlled airspace includes classes Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. For our purposes today, we'll focus on Class Charlie and Class Delta. In controlled airspace, air traffic control services are provided to instrument flight rules, or IFR flights, and to visual flight rules, or VFR flights, in accordance with the airspace classification. Wilmington is a Class Delta airspace with an overlying terminal radar service area, or TERSA. In Class Charlie airspace, aircraft must be equipped with a two-way radio and must establish communications with ATC prior to entering this airspace. A transponder with altitude reporting capability and ADS-B out is required to operate in and transition above the Class Charlie. Air traffic services and separation are provided to IFR and VFR aircraft. In Class Delta airspace, aircraft must also be equipped with a two-way radio and must establish communications with ATC prior to entering this airspace. No separation services are provided to VFR aircraft. Not depicted on this diagram is a Terminal Radar Service Area, or TERSA. In 1993, the FAA adopted the airspace classifications that are used by the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, standards. TERSAs are not included in Part 71 of the Code of Federal Regulations, which is the section that describes airspace. TURSAs also do not fit into any existing classification in the ICAO standard. The size of a TURSA and the ATC services provided in that airspace are very similar to what you would see in a Class Charlie airspace.
Hello, my name is Tim Walker, Air Traffic Control Operations Supervisor at ILM. The following slides present graphics depicting the current and proposed Wilmington airspace, which we will individually review. We will also provide an overview of flight operations into and out of Wilmington International Airport. The FAA has conducted an extensive study on this issue, and the following graphics reflect the detailed work done to design the proposed airspace. This graphic shows the current Wilmington sectional chart, which is a Class Delta airspace with an overlying TURSA. The current TURSA airspace for Wilmington International has an airspace ceiling of 6,000 feet mean sea level, or MSL. The floor of the airspace varies. It starts at the ground, shown as surface, or SFC, close to the airport, and further out, the floor is 1,600 feet MSL. The current Class Delta airspace is centered around ILM, and the Novant Health Regional Medical Center heliport lies on the southern border. Several smaller private airports also fall within the TURSA airspace. On May 23, 2024, the FAA initiated the Class Charlie establishment process. The FAA met with the Wilmington International Class Charlie Ad Hoc Committee to explain the proposed airspace changes on October 3, 2024. After listening to the Ad Hoc Committee's concerns and reviewing the committee's final report with suggestions, the FAA revised the initial proposed Class Charlie establishment request. On February 7, 2025, the FAA revised the initial proposed Class Charlie design as depicted on the graphic. The new design considers the Ad Hoc Committee's suggestions while still addressing the need to enhance the safety surrounding the existing Wilmington airspace. This graphic depicts the initial proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace on the left versus the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace on the right. After reviewing and considering the Ad Hoc Committee recommendations, the FAA amended the altitudes to adjust for the overall average field elevation within the airspace to 4,100 feet MSL and provided a cutout for the operators at the Pilots Ridge Airport. There are no published standard terminal arrival routes or STARS at Wilmington International. All aircraft are vectored to the final approach course for the active runway or assigned one of the following initial approach fixes or IAFs: Lurkey, IRUL, Topsy, and ILUXY. For fiscal year 2024, runway 24 was used the most at 39.6%. Runway 6 followed at 31.9%, then runway 17 at 14.6%, and runway 35 was used the least at 14.6% in attempt to limit traffic over the beach. This graphic depicts the current ILM Class Delta airspace with the overlying TURSA and the surrounding area airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in an east flow. Participation is voluntary in the TURSA airspace. This graphic depicts the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace and the surrounding airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in an east flow. Radio communication is required to operate within the Class Charlie airspace. The boundaries of the Class Charlie airspace have been designed to encompass high-density flight tracks that support arriving traffic near ILM. This graphic depicts the current ILM Class Delta airspace with the overlying TURSA and the surrounding area airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in a west flow. The gray line depicts the VR-84 military route that crosses the runway 24 final approach course. This graphic depicts the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace and the surrounding airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in a west flow. Increased pilot communication with air traffic will improve safety for runway 24 arrivals. This graphic depicts the current ILM class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa and the surrounding area airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in a north flow. The gray line depicts the VR-84 military route that crosses the runway 35 final approach course. This graphic depicts the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace and the surrounding area airports. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic approaching ILM in a north flow. Increased pilot communication with air traffic control will improve safety for runway 35 arrivals. On this slide, you can see the current ILM Class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa. The flight tracks in orange show all traffic arriving runway 17 in a south flow configuration. Here you can see the concentrated south flow arrival flight tracks in orange within the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace. Increased communication with ATC in the proposed Class Charlie airspace will improve safety for runway 17 arrivals. This graphic depicts the current ILM Class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa. The flight tracks in purple show all traffic departing ILM in an east flow. The gray line depicts the VR-84 military route that crosses runway 6 departure routes and overlaps beach traffic. On this slide, the flight tracks in purple depict a concentrated volume of traffic within the revised proposed Class Charlie airspace in an east flow configuration. Increased communication with air traffic control in the proposed Class Charlie airspace will improve safety for runway 6 departures. This graphic depicts the current ILM Class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa. The flight tracks in purple show all traffic departing ILM in a west flow. Here you can see a high volume of traffic departing runway 24 within the revised proposed Class Charlie airspace. Increased communication with ATC in the proposed Class Charlie airspace will improve safety in a west flow configuration. This graphic shows the current ILM Class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa and the surrounding area airports. The flight tracks in purple show all traffic departing ILM in a north flow. On this slide, you can see a high volume of traffic departing runway 35 at ILM within the revised proposed Class Charlie airspace. Increased communication with ATC in the proposed Class Charlie airspace will improve safety for runway 35 departures. Here you can see the current ILM Class Delta airspace with overlying Tersa. The flight tracks in purple show all traffic departing ILM in a south flow. This graphic depicts the revised proposed Wilmington Class Charlie airspace and the surrounding area airports. The purple flight tracks represent all aircraft departing ILM during south flow operations. Enhanced communication with air traffic control in the proposed Class Charlie airspace would improve safety for departures for runway 17. This slide shows the current Class Delta airspace with Tersa in gray and the revised proposed Class Charlie airspace overlaid in pink. The current Tersa ceiling of 6,000 feet MSL changes to 4,100 feet MSL in the Class Charlie airspace. The floor of the current Tersa outer ring changes from 1,600 to 1,300 feet MSL in Area B of the Class Charlie airspace. This graphic shows Area A of the revised proposed ILM Class Charlie airspace. Area A has a 5-mile ring from surface to 4,100 feet MSL. This graphic shows Area B of the revised proposed ILM Class Charlie airspace. Area B is the outer area from the 5-mile ring to the 10-mile ring with a floor of 1,300 feet MSL and a ceiling of 4,100 feet MSL. there is a 1 mile half circle around Pilots Ridge Airport to allow for operations into and out of the airport. ILM has seen record growth since 2022, and projections indicate continued growth. The current outdated TERSA no longer meets the facility's need for maintaining a safe and efficient airspace. Adding a Class Charlie airspace will increase pilot communication with air traffic control, improving safety for all traffic into and out of ILM. Traffic conflict example number 1 shows ILM arrivals conflicting with a non-participating aircraft maneuvering on the beach. Runway 35 was in use at ILM. Aircraft 1, a participating VFR aircraft, was maneuvering on the beach. The approach controller vectored Aircraft 2 and Aircraft 3 for a visual approach to runway 35. Additionally, the controller was providing flight following services to Aircraft 1 along the coastline. Aircraft 1 was instructed to maintain at or above 3,500 feet for the arrivals to go underneath on the final approach course to runway 35. During this scenario, the controller recognized a non-participating aircraft shown as Aircraft 4 that was maneuvering northeast along the coastline with an altitude indicating 3,800. Since Aircraft 4 was not radar identified and the altitude had not been verified, ATC was required to separate Aircraft 1, 3, and 4 using target resolution. In an effort to go behind Aircraft 4, the controller turned Aircraft 3 right to a 170-degree heading. As soon as Aircraft 3 began the turn to a 170, the non-participant turned northbound directly towards Aircraft 3. This caused a collision advisory to which the controller issued a safety alert and suggested a turn to a 080-degree heading to avoid traffic. Aircraft 4 then made a similar turn and headed eastbound towards the final approach course and then conflicted with Aircraft 1. This caused a 3-way collision advisory with Aircraft 1, Aircraft 3, and Aircraft 4. Aircraft 1 separated visually by getting both aircraft in sight, and Aircraft 3 responded to a resolution advisory. After the conflict was resolved, Aircraft 3 was vectored an additional 27 miles across the final approach course for descent and traffic avoidance. This is a common occurrence with non-participating VFR beach traffic and aircraft arriving runway 35. The proposed Class Charlie airspace would improve safety by increasing communication with ATC and preventing conflicts with arrivals to ILM. Traffic conflict example 2 provides a snapshot of a non-participating VFR aircraft in a presumed published holding pattern at the SWIC GPS fix. The SWIC GPS fix serves as an initial approach fix for a satellite airport, Cape Fear Regional Jetport, or SUT. The published holding pattern at the SWIC GPS fix crosses the final approach course to runway 6 at ILM. Aircraft 1, a non-participating VFR, appeared to be in a holding pattern at SWIC and conflicted with multiple runway 6 arrivals. Aircraft 2 and Aircraft 3 are joining the final approach course to runway 6. The course of the non-participating aircraft, Aircraft 1, in the presumed holding pattern conflicted with runway 6 arrivals. Aircraft 1 held over SWIC for approximately 30 minutes and crossed the final approach course multiple times. This increased controller workload with multiple traffic conflicts and required several delays and extended vectors. Since the aircraft had not been radar identified and the altitude had not been verified, target resolution was the required separation. This causes the controller to vector aircraft onto final in between the presumed holding pattern turns. This example is a common occurrence when ILM arrivals are using runway 6. Many non-participating aircraft use the SWIC GPS fix for navigation and training, unaware of its proximity to ILM runway 6 final approach course and related conflicts. It is worth noting that the non-participating aircraft in this example did nothing to violate the current TERSA regulations. If a Class C airspace were in place, the non-participating aircraft would be required to establish communication prior to entry. In the proposed Class Charlie airspace, a VFR aircraft like Aircraft 1 could have coordinated with ATC and maneuvered over SWIC with ILM arrivals flowing underneath the traffic. This would create a safer airspace and more efficient arrivals at ILM. Traffic conflict example number 3 shows just 1 hour of flight paths along the coastline. Here you can see there was heavy traffic along the beach. Just one non-participant can cause multiple conflicts with numerous other aircraft taking the attention of the controller away from the IFR arrivals and departures into and out of ILM. The proposed Class Charlie airspace would improve safety by increasing communication and coordination with ATC within 10 miles of ILM.
Hi, I'm Patrick Young, Team Manager for Airspace and Procedures at the FAA's Eastern Service Center. In the upcoming slides, I'll discuss the FAA's rulemaking and environmental review processes. Any changes to Class C airspace must go through the rulemaking process. Rulemaking is a process federal agencies use to make new regulations. Any proposed rule goes through numerous reviews, and the public has the opportunity to review and comment on the proposed rule. The FAA is required to review and consider every comment. Once the agency has read and considered all comments, it decides whether to go ahead with the final rule. The agency may adopt a final rule that is identical or similar to the initial proposal, or it might make changes based on the comments. As shown on the slide, this informal airspace meeting is an integral part of the process that comes before the notice of proposed rulemaking. Before any changes can be made, the proposed rule must also go through an environmental review, which is required by the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. NEPA requires that the agency evaluate environmental and related social and economic effects on the proposed action. The review includes a preliminary technical review, a preliminary environmental review, an internal review, and choice of appropriate NEPA review, which could include extraordinary circumstances and significant impacts. The graphic on this slide depicts the FAA's general NEPA process for all projects. It is not specific to this project, but it will be applied to this project. We are about to begin the live portion of the meeting with the question and answer session with our expert panel. Here is a summary of the next steps in the process. Comments will be accepted until October 31st, 2025. The FAA will consolidate and review comments. The FAA will consider comments and incorporate pertinent modifications. The FAA will finalize the environmental review. Once the notice of proposed rulemaking has been published in the Federal Register, there will be a separate 60-day comment period. We encourage you to submit your written comments. You may do so by addressing them to the FAA via mail or via email to the addresses shown on the screen. Please submit your comments no later than October 31st, 2025. You can also visit our website at www.faa.gov/go/Wilmington for more information about the project. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the FAA's website for future viewing. Hello again. I'm Patrick Young, and I will be the moderator for the live portion of this workshop. I'd like to cover 3 procedural items before we begin the question and answer session. First, if you're having technical issues connecting to the workshop, you can text our tech support number anytime during the workshop at 949-478-0253. Second, we're streaming this workshop on the FAA's YouTube live feed and recording it for viewing on our website after the workshop concludes. Finally, this meeting pertains to the proposed establishment of the Wilmington Class Charlie airspace, and we will be fielding questions related to the proposed change. We are requesting that questions outside the scope of the proposal be limited to ensure that there's ample time to address questions related to the proposed modification. Before addressing live audience questions, we'll first invite those who indicated on their registration form that they wish to present. We'll announce each attendee's name and unmute their microphone in the Zoom webinar. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak, after which we'll move on to the next presenter. Any use of inappropriate language will result in the speaker's microphone immediately being muted for the remainder of the session. We had one public presentation today, but it doesn't look like the person has showed up. So it doesn't look like we'll have any presentations. So that will conclude our presentation section for the day. Next, we will move on to the live question and answer session to address the questions we are receiving from Zoom and the FAA social media platforms. At this time, I'd like to introduce our panelists, Tim Walker and Alex Roth. Tim is an air traffic control supervisor, and Alex is an air traffic controller at Wilmington International Airport. Welcome, panelists, and thank you for representing your facility. So the first question we have today is, when is this change happening, and how will I know it has taken effect? And I'll go ahead and answer that. Following a 30-day open comment period after this meeting, and after considering all comments, the FAA will publish a notice of proposed rulemaking in the Federal Register, also known as an NPRM. The NPRM has a 60-day comment period. There'll also be an environmental review and a safety risk management panel conducted. Finally, there will be a final rule published in the Federal Register with a chart date. The FAA will, air traffic will do a public outreach announcing the change. So there'll be, again, a 30-day comment period, which ends October 31st, 2025. And then we'll go to the NPRM phase. Once that gets published, there'll be a 60-day comment period. So there'll be plenty of time for you guys to make comments and suggestions for the airspace change. Tim, I have a question for you. Why do you have to change the airspace? I think it's just fine the way that it is today.
Thank you for the question, Patrick. So due to numerous safety events in the proximity of the ILM airport between non-participating and participating aircraft, an airspace change is needed to ensure separation is maintained. With this change, ILM gains predictability, communication. We'll be able to communicate with each aircraft transitioning or coming into Wilmington. And with the Wilmington airspace getting more congested, that is critical, especially during critical phases of flight for aircraft that are setting up on final or immediately departing Wilmington. And then, with the increase in traffic, this just helps ATC do their job better and maintain safety.
Thanks, Tim. Alex, do you have anything to add to why you think we should change the airspace?
Hey, Patrick, good afternoon. Excited to be here and be a part of the process today of hopefully evolving our airspace here at Wilmington so we can provide a safer and more efficient service for everybody operating in and around the airport. Like Tim said, safety is the biggest reason as to why the airspace needs to evolve past the TURSA and move to a Class Charlie. With the record increase in traffic over the last 2 to 3 years, this is a necessary change to help us ensure separation and safety, not just for commercial traffic coming in and out of Wilmington, but also for the military, the flight schools operating, and general aviation traffic transiting the airspace. It's really just a necessary evolution based on the traffic amount that we have now.
Thanks, Alex and Tim. And as they talked about, the current TURSA airspace is really not an airspace that really exists anymore. It's not an ICAO standard. So really you're just upgrading to something that is more modern. Alex, while I got you, can the controllers here at Wilmington handle the additional VFR traffic?
Yes, we can. The establishment of the Class Charlie in itself will not increase the number of airplanes in the airspace. What it will likely do is decrease the actual workload for the controllers at Wilmington, because it will decrease potential traffic conflicts of having to work around non-participating aircraft, particularly at the critical phases of flight, like Tim said. We have a lot of traffic on the coastline, and if we're on runway 35, the coastline is almost exactly where the natural base turn is for aircraft joining final to runway 35. Like the reported slides said, the SWIC fix for the approach into Southport is directly on final for runway 6, and being in communication with those aircraft that want to maneuver in those areas will help us separate them from the traffic coming into Wilmington International, while still allowing them to perform the operations that they want to do.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, what are the altitudes in Area A and Area B?
So good question. Pulling up here on the slides here, as you can see, the Area A is the inner circle, 5-mile ring around Wilmington, surface to 4,100 feet MSL or mean sea level. And Area B is the outer ring from the 5-mile ring to the 10-mile ring. 1,300 feet is the floor, and 4,100 feet MSL would be the ceiling.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, will the traffic pattern work still be available at Wilmington?
Yes, the tower pattern will still be available just as it currently is. The establishment of the Class Charlie does not affect the tower pattern at all. We know that's a big thing here for us with all the flight training and student pilots getting their practice in, and it will still be available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tim, will the holding pattern at SWIC be moved?
No, we will. That's not moving. SWIC is not in the purview of this creation or the establishment of a Class Charlie airspace. SWIC is fine where it is. It's the being able to talk to the aircraft that are maneuvering via SWIC is the biggest issue that will fix the potential conflicts that we have in the airspace. The aircraft and pilots will still be able to use SWIC. Just now with SWIC being very close to the Class Charlie airspace, it will prompt aircraft to be in communication with us before using it.
Thank you. So really, it'll just be, they'll be able to do it, but they'll just have to be talking to you guys to use, to be holding over SWIC.
Yes.
Tim, will the tower hours be extended?
No. This time, the tower hours will stay the same. We open up at 6 a.m. Here at Wilmington, and we close at 11 p.m. And at 11 p.m., the airspace transitions to Washington Center, where air traffic services are extended. But no, at this time, the tower hours will remain the same.
And additionally, there's to change the tower hours, there's a different process that we go through, and there's requirements for traffic per hour and whatnot. And so It's completely different than changing just airspace to change hours at the facility, um, and it's most of the time not needed um, for most facilities to be open longer than they currently are. Alex, I don't know if you know all this, but give it a shot. What is the penalty for violating a Class Charlie airspace, and will the FAA allow for one-time deviations?
Well, I'm sure Tim knows a little bit more about the whole process, being the supervisor, but there will be no change as to how airspace violations will be handled. Air traffic controllers can and will issue a brasher warning if a potential violation has occurred, and that'll be referred to the Flight Standards District Office, the FSDO. We encourage all pilots to come give us a call at Wilmington, come for a tour, see what we're doing here on our side, and how we can work together to prevent those violations. And yeah, Tim might have some more on the back end there of what happens after the brasher warning is issued.
Yeah,
All right,
no,
Tim, do you-
Alex. Yeah, sorry, Alex said it perfectly. The no change in how that works. If you are given a brasher warning, which basically the controller is going to tell you a possible pilot deviation has occurred, you'll call the facility here at Wilmington, and we'll talk to you. And like Alex said, the biggest thing is pilot outreach and education. If you're looking for ways to transition the Class Charlie airspace, or anything you want to know about our operation, please feel free to reach out to the facility. We encourage tours. Come by and we'll show you our operation.
Thank you, Tim. Also, do the air traffic controllers support this proposal?
Yes. So due to the increase in traffic in the area, controllers are full support of the Class Charlie airspace establishment. We set up a collaborative work group a while back that researched this topic and the benefits of Class Charlie airspace. All the controllers here, they take pride in the services they provide to the pilots here operating in the area, and they want to do the best that they can. And being able to talk to each aircraft will definitely help with that. So that's the Class Charlie airspace will help us do that. And yeah, that's all the controllers definitely support it.
Thank you, Tim. And Alex, I guess you agree there with Tim on the controller support.
Yes, most definitely. Myself, the other, I think it's 23 controllers, our 3 supervisors, including Tim, and our air traffic manager, Clay. We're all in agreement that this is the necessary and best thing that can happen for our airspace to help us provide, most importantly, the safest operation that we can, and that'll help us be more efficient as well, as displayed on the traffic conflict slides earlier. Sometimes when a traffic conflict does occur, aircraft end up flying, dozens of miles more than they need to. So having the Class Charlie will allow us to provide a safer and more efficient service for everyone.
Thank you, guys. I have a question here that I'm going to try to answer here. When do you expect to have this Class Charlie in effect? And there's no timeline currently that we have to have when it won't be next June or whatever. But we have our comment period 30, so October 31st, 2025 for after this meeting. And then we'll go to a notice of proposed rulemaking. Once that gets published, so it'll be a 60-day comment period. So we have timelines, but at the same time, there is no, drop dead date at the end of it. Everything takes a little bit of time. So it'll take a little while to get all the phases complete, but we will push it as quickly as we can and continue to work on it as best we can to get it done soon, so we can address all the safety concerns. I have another question here. Besides noise, are there any other environmental considerations? And the FAA will perform an environmental review as required by the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, which carefully evaluates several environmental factors when considering changes to the national airspace system. These factors include, but are not limited to, noise impacts on surrounding communities, air quality, land use capability, and the protection of cultural and historical sites. So there'll be several things that are included in our review of the area. Tim, question here on air traffic services. Moving to a Class Charlie, does the provided air traffic services 24 hours? Currently, once the tower closes, we can have issues with night arrivals, IFR for separation with center.
So good question. 24-hour ATC service is provided, whether it's from us here at the Wilmington Tower or through Washington Center. So those will be the same. The implementation of the Class Charlie airspace, however, if you're asking, the tower hours won't change. We're going to operate as normal, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then outside of those hours will be Washington Center's control. But whether it's us or whether it's Washington Center, ATC services are provided for 24 hours a day.
And they'll be used in the Class Charlie separation requirements, whether or not it's you guys or Washington Center. So the separation standards will be the same no matter what group you're talking to. The next question I have here is, why wasn't this meeting held earlier in the process? And really, the informal airspace meeting that we're holding now is the first step in formal community engagement. No final decisions are made before these sessions. This meeting is your opportunity to shape the proposal. So really, this is the first step in the formal steps. Tim, what changes would occur for Part 107 operations, remote drone, pilot drones?
Another good question. Not much change at all from the way we currently operate with the Tersa and the Delta. In April 21st, 2021, the rule for drone operators under Part 107, that will remain the same. But in order to fly in areas, such as controlled areas, it requires a waiver, and airspace authorizations are still required for night operations. So if you're Part 107 certified, you know how to reach out and make those requests. If not, give us a call at the facility or the FAA website, and we can help assist with that. But we do drones just about every other day, definitely every week, and not much will change, if any, with drone operators.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, will these proposed changes have any impact on New River MOAs, are the R5306, R5303, military range IOV New River, specifically proposed approach corridors and beachline traffic?
Great question. We have a lot of military traffic here at Wilmington. A lot of the controllers are previous military service members. I think we have every branch represented here, which is pretty cool. These changes in the establishment of the Class Charlie will have no impact on the special use airspace that New River controls and Cherry Point approach that overlies them. Currently, there are no approach corridors into Wilmington, and there are none when the Charlie hopefully will be established. Almost all of the arrivals that come into Wilmington come over to us direct to the airport, and then the radar controller will vector them to the final approach course for the arrival runway that we're operating on that day. The VR-084 basically runs directly along the coastline. So with the establishment of the Class Charlie and a good chunk of the coastline being encompassed by the Class Charlie and requiring the two-way radio communications, it will allow us to provide a safer operation for the military traffic transiting the coastline on the VR-084 route.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tim, what is the Class Charlie lateral radar separation standards for VFR aircraft?
There's multiple separations standards in the Class Charlie airspace, which are all the same as the Tersa airspace. For the first one, the closest standard for lateral separation is called target resolution, which basically means when the radar controller is working the radar targets that they see on their screen, they will not allow those targets to touch. That's target resolution, keeping those targets away from each other, either mostly via vectors for target resolution. Another one is altitude separation. So we can use altitude separation in the Class Charlie airspace, especially with VFR aircraft, tell them at or above an altitude or at or below an altitude to keep the pilots separated via altitude. And being in communication with all those aircraft in the Class Charlie airspace, we'll be able to verify that altitude with our ILM altimeter so that everybody's on the same altimeter. We know we verified their altitude, so we can now separate them with altitude. And then the last one would be visual separation. So we can give traffic to pilots, tell them where the traffic is, and if that pilot sees that aircraft, now they may apply their own visual separation to that traffic and keeping them in sight, basically. So, and all those are the same, as I said, in the Tersa the terminal radar service area that we use today. So not really any change there. We're going to use the same forms of separation as we do today in the new proposed Class Charlie airspace.
Thank you, Tim. So really the separation standard in the Tersa and the Charlie is the same. It's just you'll be talking to more airplanes, hopefully, to allow you to know where everybody's doing.
Correct.
Awesome. While I got you, how does this airspace change requirements for aircraft to be equipped with transponders and ADS-B?
Another good question. The proposed establishment of the Class Charlie airspace, while you're in the lateral confines of the Class Charlie airspace and above the airspace, ADS-B transponders is required. And then while you're inside, ATC communication is required. So ADS-B out is required. If you're having issues with that, there are waivers that can be put in. Give us the call at the facility if you don't know how to do that. We can get you figured out, basically, and help you either transition the airspace or come into Wilmington if, say, your ADS-B is not working, or just give us a call at the facility and we can get you figured out.
Yeah, and with a lot of the requirements, ADS-B and two-way communication. If you're having issues with your plane, and you need to come in or out of the airspace, if you give the controllers a call, they can get you in and out, without talking to or having the ADS-B with those exemptions and stuff. So if you need work on it, it's not like you're going to just be stuck forever. Alex, did you consider whether a couple of VFR flyaways north-south or east-west would achieve the same? The problem, as I see it, is I don't know what ATC instructions to expect when I'm passing through, and the proposed new altitudes are pretty inconvenient if I'm traveling to or from the general aviation airports around.
Yeah, in reference to the flyways, Tim might be able to speak on that a little bit better after I go, but I think that was part of the process of the staff study that was performed, and just I'm pretty sure that the Chicago area has flyways, but I think there might be some differences between their airspace usage and needs compared to ours. The establishment of the Class Charlie really is just the next reasonable evolution of the airspace. The proposed design is similar to all the other Class Charlie airspaces in the southeastern United States. Many aircraft won't receive any instruction at all, other than being assigned a beacon code and us verifying that their mode C altitude that's indicated is accurate. If control instructions do become necessary, they would likely be an altitude assignment, like in the example of the aircraft holding at SWIC, when we're arriving at runway 6. Maybe we have the aircraft practicing to hold at SWIC stay at or above 3,500 feet, or maybe 4,000 if we needed them up that high, so we could get the arrivals to runway 6 underneath them and know that we have established separation. Another separation instruction that we might give is a vector, a heading to fly for a little bit until we ensure the separation that we need, and then eventually allowing the aircraft to resume their own navigation and maneuver as they want.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, do you have anything, any thoughts on the possible inclusion of VFR flyways?
Yeah, just a quick, yeah, Alex said it perfectly. But yes, in the ad hoc committee, they did use some examples from the Chicago airspace, considering a VFR flyway. The big thing with those is the beach still crosses that runway 35 final approach course. So that was the biggest thing. And as far as I'm aware, some of those flyways still require them to check in with ATC in certain areas. So they're verifying their altitude so that they can transition those flyways. And that's the biggest thing, is going back and forth across that final approach course. As was shown in some of those conflict examples, that's what we're trying to prevent. Just give us a call. And if you don't want flight following, you don't want a beacon code, give us a call, let us verify your altitude, so that, and then you can transition. And then as soon as you're, clear the Class Charlie airspace, we can send you on your way. That's all we're looking for, is just communication.
Thank you, Tim. I got a question here for you. How is a brasher warning issued when it would be issued to a non-participating aircraft?
That's a very good question. So we're not talking to the aircraft. We would not be able to issue a brasher warning to a pilot that we're not talking to. We do see your ADS-B or your VFR code when you're flying around. So if we see you go into a airport, we can call down to that airport and ask to speak with you. But that's typically, but that's not usually done. Or we can relay a message, basically just we would like to just communicate. Most of the times that happens, the pilot is not necessarily aware that they may have violated an airspace. So just communication, just reaching out and simple, hey, we're now a Class Charlie airspace essentially. And here's this. Would you like to come by and we can talk about it, or, see the airspace, offer you a tour, whatever it needs to be.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, what were the airspace designs considerations with regards to north-south traffic along the coast?
Sure. There was a lot of consideration given to the coastal traffic. We certainly have a lot of it, and like we saw in the examples when we were arriving at runway 35, we can have potential traffic conflicts there repeatedly. The proposed Class Charlie design allows us to safely separate the aircraft that just want to transition north and south on the coast from the arrivals coming into Wilmington. And the new design allows us to provide the best service to all those aircraft, allowing them to maneuver as they want, but also do it safely. And the two-way communication being established is the biggest part of that. As long as we know what everybody's doing, we can help the aircraft maneuver safely and efficiently on the coast.
Thank you, Alex. And like you've heard several times, I think the biggest thing that everybody at Wilmington would like is just to talk to the airplanes. If everybody knows what's going on, it's much easier to keep everybody safe and separated. Tim, is there going to be a Pilot's Ridge airspace cutout?
Yes, another good question. Thank you for bringing that up in the slide there. Prior to the ad hoc committee, we just proposed a standard Class Charlie airspace. The ad hoc suggested that, that 10-mile ring there goes right over top of the Pilot's Ridge airspace, and why not a little cutout for them? So we raised it here to the controllers here at Wilmington. It was everybody was fine with that. No issue there. So absolutely, you ask, and we can accommodate for sure. So there will be a 1-mile half circle ring around the Pilot's Ridge Airport down there, and hope that helps assist those pilots in and out of that airport if they do not want to talk to us.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, has there been any change in expected impact to flying club operations since the previous meetings?
No. If anything, I think that the new design, like we say repeatedly, is going to help us provide a safer experience for everybody in the airspace, to include the flying clubs. We understand that the flying clubs want to maneuver as they always have, but also the airspace has evolved in the last 3 or so years, specifically with a drastic increase in traffic, and establishing the Class Charlie will allow us to be in communication with them and help provide the separation between the traffic coming into Wilmington and where they would like to operate.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, another kind of question in that aspect. Will there be changes when operating out of McGee Heliport? Looks like 01 NR in proposed Charlie airspace, 4 to 5 miles southwest of Wilmington, that are not shown on the included sectional?
Another good question. No, I know the helicopter and heliport that you're talking about. It goes 45 miles to the southwest, and then heads northbound. No changes at all. They will be able to operate as they do now. and hopefully in a safer manner, since we are now talking to everybody.
Thanks, Tim. And while I got you, do these changes increase over areas A and B?
Um, uh, the current Tersa airspace is 1,600 feet to 6,000 feet in that outer ring, and it's a 20-mile ring. So area B for the Class Charlie airspace is a 10-mile ring, and it's going to be from 1,300, 1,300 to 4,100 feet MSL or mean sea level. Area A is gonna is a 5-mile ring, which that's the same, but the altitude is going to be, the ceiling will be 4,100 feet with the to the surface. So those are the basically the changes for from the Tersa to the Class Charlie airspace.
Thank you. So it's like the Class Charlie is actually, I would say, substantially smaller than the current Tersa airspace. So the section that I guess pilots will actually have to talk, is not nearly as large as the Tersa currently is.
Yes, correct.
Here's a question. I've got Tim or Alex. I appreciate the work that has gone into the current proposal. As we review the lateral and vertical limits, I'd like to ask whether consideration was given to expanding the Class Charlie airspace beyond 10 nautical mile final to encompass the initial approach fixes for each runway.
I'll go first. I would say it was considered, it was thought of, at least informally, between the controllers here. But the current proposed design is based on the current traffic amount and complexity and the conflicts that seem to be occurring repeatedly. Most of them seem to be occurring more so on the final approach course when we're arriving aircraft, or on the departure courses that aircraft are flying on. The intent is not to make the Class Charlie overly restrictive and just encompass more surface area than there needs to be. If the current proposed design is just the next evolution for where we are currently, if the amount of traffic continues to grow exponentially from here, who knows? There are processes that I'm sure you've worked on with other airports, Patrick, to help them modify their currently existing Charlie to expand and encompass more area for like the RNAV T fixes, like the initial approach fixes, if they're having more conflicts out there. But the current proposed Class Charlie should help us solve a lot of the traffic conflict issues that we're seeing today.
Yeah,
Thank you, Tim.
Alex said, yeah, sorry, Patrick. Yeah, Alex said it perfectly. Just to add, yeah, so the initial approach fixes are about 2 miles outside of that 10-mile ring. So the thinking of that is that you have to establish communication prior to entering the Class Charlie airspace. So most were going to contact us, good, 5 miles outside of the Class Charlie airspace, or at least try to establish that communication with us. So that's the thinking of that. And then plus expanding that Class Charlie airspace outside of the 10-mile ring, that also takes up more of the beach. So we didn't want to, I understand the need to, or the wanting to fly along the beach. And so as Alex said, yeah, not to, take up too much airspace, just what we need right now, just a standard Class Charlie airspace. We'll see how that works for us. I think it should be fine. But if modifications are needed down the road, we'll address that as it comes.
I guess I would add too, if you feel strongly about having bump outs or extensions, you could also propose that in a formal comment, and the FAA would address that comment as well. Um, so, um, but this was just the initial design. Everybody felt that a standard Charlie airspace would again give them what they needed, but then also not be an overdue burden on just the general aviation pilots out there. The next question here, is there a process that would allow a public safety agency or agencies to request a small corridor of 400 feet to 1,300 feet class Charlie up to the Rocky Point area to support BVLOS UAS operations? This would open up an opportunity for our agency to apply for altitude waivers in order to support airborne communication relay missions inside the class Charlie. And I'll just say that UAS operators can request waivers to operate with the proposed class Charlie airspace. And you just go to the FAA's website, www.faa.gov/UAS, for any waiver request. Tim, how do residents identify where their house is located in these areas?
Okay, that's a good question. So as of right now, it's the Class Charlie airspace is a proposal. It's just a concept, so it's not charted yet. But you could use, just a 10-mile ring around Wilmington or a 5-mile ring around Wilmington using Google Earth. They can assist with that, help you plot the 10-mile or 5-mile rings. That's what we've used before. You can also reach out here to the facility. We have a couple of websites that we use, especially for drone operators. We can tell you where you are as far as like in our airspace. Just give us a call at the facility or reach out to us via email, and we can let you know.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, are there any changes that will affect current use of the airspace surrounding Class D or non-towered airports?
Good question. No, the Class Delta towered airports. Well, we only have one in our airspace, our radar airspace, the Ellis Airport up to the northeast of us. But the non-towered airports, the Wallace Airport, Southport, they will not see any change with the proposed Class Charlie, since they are not within the confines of it or in the immediate vicinity. The one non-towered airport that would have been affected by the original design of the Class Charlie, Pilot's Ridge, as we discussed earlier, one of the proposals in the ad hoc process was to allow for the cutout to be around Pilot's Ridge to allow them to arrive and depart from there without being overly burdened with having to call us immediately or prior to taking off. So just a good example of how the process has worked, and the other airports will be unaffected as well.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, will aircraft that do not wish to communicate with ATC be required to transition the new airspace?
Yeah, good, another good question. So yes, if the Class Charlie airspace is established, two-way radio communication is required in that airspace. If you do not wish to talk to ATC, then you would have to remain outside of the Class Charlie confines. If you're just looking to transition and you need help with that, you can give us a call via the radio or via the call the facility. We can help you. We can assist you with that if you don't want the flight following. You don't want a NAS code, flight plan in the NAS in the National Airspace System. We don't have to do that for you. We can just help you transition around it or through it and let you go on your way. So But if you just absolutely do not want to talk to us, then you would have to go around or above.
Thank you, Tim. Um, I know that it's sometimes scary to talk to you controllers, but I mean, look at Tim's face there. I mean, how could you say no to that? Alex, can we do a cutout over the beach? Lots of banner towing in the summer and sightseeing year round.
Um, well, a cutout over the beach would really negate many of the safety improvements that establishing the Class Charlie airspace would bring to all of the users of the airspace. The flight paths, particularly when we're arriving to runway 35, are in direct conflict with the coastline. The runway 624 downwinds are there for the left or right side, respectively. We need to be in communication with as many of the aircraft as we can in that area to ensure the safety of everybody operating there. The coastline is outside of the inner ring of the proposed Class Charlie, so I guess those aircraft could theoretically operate underneath the outer area of the Charlie. But I would say that the intent um, of establishing the Class Charlie is to not exclude anyone from operating in the airspace, but just to get us to be able to establish the communication to provide the separation and safety that our airspace requires now with the increased traffic.
Again, I would say just the big thing here is really just want to talk to the pilots, and then you'll know exactly kind of what they're wanting to do. You'll be able to tell their altitude and provide separation and a greater safety environment for everyone. Tim, will there be any impacts to Pender County Public Safety UAS operations?
Another good question. No, nothing will change with that. The UAS operations and the requests for authorizations will remain the same, and yet nothing will impact that.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, under Class Charlie, will the controllers have radio contact with military aircraft in the VR route?
Yes, in the Class Charlie, the two-way radio communication is required. We got the slide pulled up there to where you can see the VR 084 starting on the south and kind of running parallel with the coast there up to the northeast, and then taking a turn to the north once it gets kind of past the airport to the east side there. Aircraft there will be required to speak to us, and we will be able to provide separation from aircraft operating the beach and arriving at Wilmington. So not a major change for them. We currently sometimes will, once the military aircraft are established on the VR-084, instead of letting them go and not talk to us anymore, we'll have them remain in contact with us to ensure separation from other aircraft that might be operating on or near the route that we are not talking to. So with the establishment of the Charlie, we'll be able to provide a better separation service for everyone.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. Tim, what specific traffic threshold, airline operations per day, GA operations per day, trigger the FAA's move from Class Delta to Class Charlie? And has Wilmington actually met those numbers?
Another good question. So yes, there are several considerations for the Class Charlie establishment, including traffic count. And so like in the regulation, there's one of them is 75,000 instrument operations at the primary airport, or which would be ILM. Another one is 100,000 instrument operations at the primary and secondary airport. Another one is the enplanement count, 250,000 enplanements, enplaned passengers for the primary airport. So, and have we met them? So yes, as of 2024, Wilmington had over 700,000 enplaned passengers. We've met that 250,000 enplaned passengers for a few years now. And then the instrument operations of 75,000. Wilmington of 2023 hit 91,000. So above that 75,000 marker. So yes, we qualify. That was part of the staff study that we submitted. And that was checked to make sure that we do qualify, that we are in compliance and can start this process.
Yeah, and I would say as part of our job before we even get to anything like this, public meetings, is to make sure that all the boxes are checked for operations and whatnot for Class Charlie airspace or any sort of airspace change. We make sure that they actually qualify for that type of airspace before we put in the work to create it. Alex, why Class Charlie airspace instead of simply expanding the Class Delta or enhancing ATC staffing?
Well, I'm sure every facility would love additional staffing, but enhancing staffing itself would not alleviate potential conflicts with non-participating aircraft in the airspace. Establishing the Class Charlie allows us to really protect the final approach fixes and courses for all the runways here at Wilmington. Expanding the Class Delta would not achieve the same requirements of separation that we would get with the Charlie. And the Charlie, like Tim said just a minute ago, we've far exceeded the passenger enplanement requirements for the last few years. The Class Charlie is the next appropriate evolution of our airspace to allow us to provide the safety and service that amount of traffic demands.
Thank you, Alex. And to kind of expand upon that, really Class Delta airspace is almost just a math formula. And so they will just basically over the airport, there's a formula that they do, and it will take into account different things around the airspace, approaches, and the ground height and stuff like that. And it will put out a Class Delta airspace size, and that's pretty much it. There's no tailoring it to I guess, additionally, besides, just the mathematic formula to a specific airport. So that's, once they needed, communication with the pilots, really Class Charlie airspace is the next evolution. Next question here. What lessons have been learned from other recent Class Charlie establishments, and how do they apply here? I'll go ahead and answer that. The FAA has a legal process to both establish and modify a Class Charlie airspace. This includes multiple phases of public outreach and an opportunity for the public and the flying community to provide feedback and recommendations to the FAA regarding the proposed design. The process has shown success during several Class Charlie changes over the last few years. And we've changed Nashville's. We're in the process of working on Jacksonville and Daytona. Raleigh is going through this as well. And then several other airports in the Florida area have gone through as well. So we've been busy as of late, and we take and learn lessons each time, and try to get better with our designs and our outreach and whatnot. Tim, will the controllers still be able to provide VFR services outside the Class Charlie airspace?
Yes, another good question. That will not change at all. If you call us, if a pilot calls us up, we assume you are looking for flight following and a flight plan into the National Airspace System, which we can provide. But if you're just looking for transitioning the Class Charlie airspace, we can do that as well. So none of that will change. That will be, we'll provide you with VFR flight following services for as long as you want it.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, if Class Delta and Tracon services are already in place, what data provides they are inadequate?
Well, the data is in the examples that we showed earlier on the slides of just repeated possible conflict areas. For example, the holding pattern at Swick there being in direct conflict with the arrivals to runway 6. There's been multiple MORs that I'm sure have been filed for traffic conflicts there and on the beach when we're arriving runway 35. The Class Charlie airspace and the requirement of established two-way radio communication with the radar controller in the lateral and vertical boundaries is really what we need to evolve to. The current TERSA is optional participation, and with the increase in traffic, the requirement to have that communication is really just the next step of where we need to go and allow us to keep everybody safe and operating efficiently in the airspace.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, how will this impact student pilots and small aircraft operators who may feel intimidated or burdened by Class Charlie requirements?
So we definitely don't want to intimidate anybody. So controllers, we just want to talk to you. That's big. That's the biggest thing. If you feel burdened or intimidated by the Class Charlie airspace, come by the facility. Give us a call. Happy to give you a tour, explain everything, and show you some of the things that we do. Yeah, please don't feel intimidated or burdened. We just want to provide a good service, as best service as we can. The Class Charlie airspace, if anything, hopefully it makes it more efficient because now we're talking to everybody. That's the biggest thing.
Thank you, Tim. In my experience, the more, I guess, they actually contact you and talk, it gets easier and easier every time. The first time might be scary, but each time after that, it gets progressively easier. And then it'll just be old hat. And then when you go to a bigger airspace and you have to talk to more people, then it's just easier then too. Next question here. If public feedback is strongly against Class Charlie airspace, will you reconsider? And I'll go ahead and answer that. It's the FAA's practice to consider all comments. However, the FAA's primary mission is safety. If data supports the need, safety considerations will carry the most weight in our final decision. Tim, how will this interact with nearby military operations, restricted airspace, and other airports in the region?
Shouldn't be too much of a change at all for military operations. We'll just the only thing is the Class Charlie just requires to establish communication prior to entering. That's really it, and most of them do that. The one military route that does go through the Class Charlie airspace, the VRD4 that Alex kind of already talked about, that's a published route we know which way they're going. We know their altitudes. So if there's traffic, we may ask for them to stay on frequency with us until that traffic conflict has been eliminated. Otherwise, if there's nothing out there, they'll be able to just go onto that route without, we'll be able to let them go, as Alex said, just to proceed on the course, basically. So, other than that, nothing really. Class Charlie Airspace, just going to provide a more safe and efficient airspace for the military users as well.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, when I fly out of the Ohio State University Airport, there can be confusion over who to call for the Columbus Charlie. Who all can I call at Wilmington to establish two-way radio communication?
Great question. Whoever had it, come on by for a tour. I'm our resident Ohio State football fan here. Go Buckeyes. Um, the two frequencies that our approach control has are 135.75 or 118.25. You can call us on either one of those to establish two-way radio communication before getting into Charlie. We'll give you a beacon code, verify your mode C, and get you on your way. 135.75 is also the frequency that Washington Center will be on when we are closed after 11 p.m. at night and before we open again in the morning at 6 a.m.
Thank you, Alex. Next question here. What is the phone number and website to locate your home? And thank you for pulling that up. For further information, you can contact the Wilmington Air Traffic Control Tower down there, 910-530-6452. And they can help you, I guess, if you're looking to locate your house within the Charlie airspace with that, if that's kind of what your question is alluding to. Alex, if safety is the priority, how does the FAA balance that against the burden placed on recreational and student pilots who may now feel pushed out of the Wilmington airspace?
Yeah. Wilmington air traffic encourages all the pilots, particularly the student pilots and the recreational pilots, to communicate with air traffic as much as you can. Like you said earlier, the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. The more often that the students utilize air traffic services, the more comfortable they'll be. A lot of the students who are just beginning in general aviation flight training or have goals of becoming, commercial pilots with the airlines one day, and flying at even bigger airports than ours here at Wilmington, will require that communication as well. The intent of the Class Charlie is to encourage more participation, not to drive anybody away. We are not looking to restrict anybody from participating in the airspace. It's really about establishing that communication so we know what everybody's doing and provide everybody the best service that we can.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, what exact metrics, reduced incursions, fewer loss of separation events, traffic efficiency, will the FAA track to prove that the Class Charlie was the right decision?
Good question. So there's no guarantee that the Class Charlie airspace will meet our expectation perfectly. The FAA has lots of ways to track the arrivals, departures, TCAS events, which the resolution advisories, the conflict events basically between aircraft, MORs, mandatory occurrence reporting, and there's many things we use to track the efficiency, to track the flights, and it's ever evolving. It's always changing. If something can be made better, then we can do that. Or if we're always looking at those numbers to see how we can better provide a better service.
Thank you, Tim. We kind of talked about this before, but how will visiting pilots who don't have ADSB out be accommodated? And will they still be able to operate into Wilmington safely and legally?
So for flying in Class Charlie airspace, it does require ADS-B out equipment. That's what's mandated by the regulation. If your aircraft does not have ADS-B out, or let's say it's not working at the time, there is a process to request a deviation from it. It's in the FAA's ADAPT online tool. It's be on the website, or if you need help with that, give us a call at the facility. We'll help you with that, and we can get you going. That alone shouldn't be a factor to keep you from operating.
Thank you, Tim. And while I got you still, will the proposed change affect arrival and departure procedures for general aviation pilots?
Nope. Good question again. Class Charlie airspace will operate for general aviation pilots mostly the same as we do now. The only real change is that two-way radio communication that's required before you enter the Class Charlie airspace. So that's all we're looking for is the communication. That's really only change. The departure routes, the arrival routes, none of that will affect it just by the establishment of the Class Charlie airspace.
Thank you, Tim. Alex, will the airspace change have any noticeable impact on airport noise levels for surrounding communities?
No, there's no expected change in noise levels for the local communities around the airport as the result of establishing the Class Charlie specifically. There won't be any change to any current flight paths or in the number of operations that we have here. All of those things should remain the same.
Thank you. And that'll be something that the environmental team will look into as well when they do their environmental assessment. Tim, what are the vertical and lateral extents of the proposed Class Charlie airspace?
Yeah, thank you again for pulling up that slide. The inner ring is that 5-mile ring from the surface to 4,100 feet mean sea level. The outer ring is from the 5-mile ring to the 10-mile ring, 1,300 feet to 4,100 feet mean sea level, to include the 1-mile half circle around the Pilot's Ridge Airport.
Thank you. Alex, how will these changes affect operations and traffic flows at surrounding airports?
Well, like we said earlier, the surrounding airports are not within or in the immediate vicinity of the proposed Class Charlie airspace. Aircraft that still do not wish to enter the Class Charlie airspace would then have to remain outside of it, underneath Area B or outside of it completely laterally. But again, aircraft are really encouraged to call air traffic control and participate as much as they can. It helps us to ensure separation and provide the best service to everybody. Again, we don't want to restrict anybody from participating. We certainly don't want to intimidate anybody with the changes, like we said earlier. We really just want to be able to provide the best service to everybody in the area.
Thanks, Alex. Is the FAA conducting an environmental review to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA? And yes, before any change can happen to existing airspace or proposed airspace, it must go through an environmental review. This review is conducted under policy outlines in the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. NEPA requires the agency to evaluate the environmental and related socio-economical effects of the proposed action. And like I've gone over before at the beginning of the presentation, the review includes a preliminary technical review, a preliminary environmental review, an internal review, and a choice of an appropriate NEPA review. In this case, the Wilmington Air Traffic Controllers will coordinate with the Service Center environmental specialist to ensure that it is accomplished. The FAA will review input from the public and complete the NEPA process prior to implementation of the proposed airspace change. For more information about the FAA's environmental policy, you can visit the official website at faa.gov and access details about policies, programs, and initiatives under the Environment section. Alex, how will the establishment of Class Charlie airspace improve safety and efficiency at Wilmington?
Sorry, say the question again, Patrick.
No problem. How will the establishment of Class Charlie airspace improve the safety and efficiency at Wilmington?
As we saw in the examples during the presentation earlier, non-participating traffic along the coast near the final approach courses can routinely conflict with the arrivals and departures here at Wilmington International Airport. With the Class Charlie, aircraft in those areas will be required to have two-way radio communication with us, and that'll allow us to verify their altitudes and intentions so that we can safely separate them from the arrivals and departures here at Wilmington.
Thank you. And while I got you, what specific changes will occur in pilot communication with aircraft, with the controllers under the Class Charlie airspace?
Like we've been saying, the biggest change is the requirement for the communication. One change that I can think of specifically currently in the with the TURSA that we have, VFR departures from Wilmington International can and sometimes do decline to participate in the TURSA. So the tower controller will basically work them to the edge of the current class Delta and then just tell them frequency change approved as opposed to contact departure. With the establishment of the Class Charlie, all VFR departures from Wilmington International will depart from here and then talk to the Wilmington radar controllers to get them outside of the Charlie. And then at that point, if they wanted to terminate service, they could. But as Tim said earlier, we'd love to talk to all the aircraft in our airspace. So if you're flying out of here and you're just going up to the Dublin Airport, for example, on the very northern edge of our airspace, just outside of it, we'll work you all the way till you get up there.
Excellent. It seems like a recurring pattern here, but really just wanting to talk to these guys and get them on their way safely and efficiently as possible. Tim, what specific safety incidences or near misses have occurred at Wilmington that justify elevating the airspace to Class Charlie?
Another good question. Thank you. So the slides showed a couple of those examples with non-participating traffic either along the beach or the one that does the holding pattern at Swick to conflict with the arrivals to Wilmington. These incidents cause TCAS resolution advisories due to the unverified altitudes and intentions of the non-participating aircraft. Those are just a few. It's a, I would say it's mostly common for the non-participating aircraft to go up and along the beach or to do that holding pattern at Swick. So sometimes it prompts runway changes, sometimes it prompts, moving traffic around that would or adjusting the operation because of that. So the Class Charlie airspace would help with that and establish that two-way communication so that we can keep it safe for everybody.
Thanks, Tim. Alex, will additional controller staffing be provided to handle increased communication requirements?
No. There might be an increase in the number of aircraft on the frequencies for the approach controllers at any given time. since there would be the requirement of it. The number of aircraft in the area will be the same. We're just talking to a few more of them. But what might actually happen is the workload will actually decrease because we won't have the non-participating aircraft maneuvering in those critical spots for aircraft that are arriving and departing the Wilmington Airport. On the staffing side, there's not going to be a creation of any new control positions here at Wilmington. I don't believe that we would need to do that, even if we had previously considered it. But our staffing is increasing. We have a good group of trainees now who are all progressing through the training program. So that alone will help the staffing increase. But we don't need a staffing increase specifically to be able to transition to the proposed class charter.
Thank you, Alex. If those metrics don't improve, will the FAA consider reverting Wilmington back to a Class Delta? If not, why not? And I'll go ahead and answer that. The FAA continually conducts airspace reviews as part of its regular repeatable process. Part of the airspace review includes analyzing the airspace to determine the need to retain Class Charlie airspace designation. And if the FAA determines that Class Delta needs revocating, a staff study will need to be accomplished and analysis of traffic and airspace. So basically, we go through and evaluate all Deltas, Charlies, Bravos, and make sure that they still qualify for that airspace designation. And if they don't, then we will address that issue when it comes down to that. Next question I have here, the number 910-530-6452 is asking for a mailbox number. How can the public contact FAA in Wilmington? Let's see, the public can contact the Wilmington Administration Desk during normal business hours at, looks like a better number here is 910-530-6451. And you can also submit questions via email to clayton.j.smith@faa.gov. Tim or Alex, is that the best number for the facility?
Yes. Yeah, that works. That's Clay Smith, our air traffic manager. That's his email as well. So yeah, during normal business hours, that will work. And then the email as well. Yeah, both of those will work.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question here. How will unmanned aircraft drones be handled in Class Charlie? And we've kind of gone over this several times, but Class Charlie airspace requires UAS airspace authorization. The application process remains unchanged. You can call 844-FLY-MY-UA or email uashelp@faa.gov. We're coming to the end of our questions here. So I got one last question for you, Alex. Why do we need this airspace change?
Yeah, we've been saying it a bunch, but the reason for the needed change is because of the significant traffic increase over the last 3 to 5 years or so. I've been here at Wilmington it'll be 4 years in December. We live here in Wilmington, and everything's grown in that time. There's more people at the grocery store. There's more people on the roads. There's more people at the parks on the weekends, and the air traffic is no different. We've had record traffic numbers for really almost 2 consecutive years now, every month being busier than the last. And the airspace needs to evolve along with the traffic amount and with everything else. It's going to allow us to provide the best service and to maximize safety for all of the airspace users. And that's really the goal here of all the controllers. We want everybody to be safe, and we want everybody to be able to operate as efficiently as we can help them do it.
Thank you, Alex. Tim, same question for you. Why do we need this airspace change?
Alex said it perfectly. The traffic at Wilmington is increasing. The air carrier operations, the general aviation, military operations, it's all increasing. And as traffic increases, the airspace should evolve with it to make a better airspace. And just then the biggest thing is just establishing that communication so that we can verify the altitude and we can provide you with the best service that we can. That's all we're looking to do is just provide a better and safer experience while you fly through Wilmington.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Alex. I'd like to thank everybody that attended this Wilmington International Airport informal airspace meeting for the proposed establishment of the Class Charlie airspace. The recording of this event will be available on the FAA's YouTube channel and at www.faa.gov/go/Wilmington. If your question was not answered today, please feel free to submit your question or comment during the open comment period to the email listed on the slide being shown. Remember, you must submit all comments no later than October 31st, 2025. All formal comments received during the comment period will be considered prior to any revision or issuance of a notice of proposed rulemaking for the airspace. The FAA appreciates your time and contributions to the proposed design of the Wilmington Class Charlie airspace. This concludes our meeting. Have a nice evening.